As parents, most of us are really focused on the years from birth to graduation, right? Those 18 years are super critical. We see them as the years that we have the most influence on our kids and when it really matters that we show up. And maybe we start worrying about how to pay for college or something in that process, but those first 18 years seem to be the focus of parenting. But what about the years after that? What about after 18 and when they're on their own in college or maybe starting their own lives or maybe way down the road when they're starting to become parents of their own? You see, being a dad doesn't stop when your kids go out the door to start their own life. Comedian Tim Allen joked about it on Last Man Standing when he was trying to explain to his daughter Mandy that no matter where she went, he would always see her as his little girl. That when he died, he would wake up and be like, beep, oh, wait, did Mandy change the oil in her car? Because even after death, she would still be at the forefront of his mind. Well, Rob Finlay, author of Hey Dad, Everything You Should Have Learned About in Life But Didn't, explained that when you make that transition from 18 to beyond 18, it's just a change in the way you dad. And he likens it to the difference between a high school football coach and a pro football coach. It's the same game, but it is a different style of coaching and a different relationship. Check out Rob's favorite dad story, and then we're going to have a quick word from our sponsor, and we'll dive into dad life after your kids are grown. Rob, every dad has that story that just jumps to mind. It puts a smile on your face. You feel good about it. What is your favorite dad story?
So I think it's hard, obviously, to just pick one. But if I'm going to pick one, let me set the stage for you. So it's middle of the night, and my phone rings. And so for any dad, any parent, having the phone ring in the middle of the night is the thing that we dread the most. So I jump up out of bed, my heart's racing, and at my age, this heart shouldn't be racing at that time of night. I see it's one of my daughters. I pick up the phone, I'm frantic. What's wrong? And on the other end of the phone, I hear the voice of my daughter asking me, "Hey, Dad, I'm at a gas station. Can I put the green gas in my Jeep?" And I had to stop for a second. I'm like, okay, so you're not on the side of the road. You're not dead. This is okay. So I calmed down a little bit. I'm like, what? She said, "Can I put the green gas?" And she's frustrated at me now, having to ask her, "Can I put the green gas in my Jeep?" And my brain finally clicked. I said, "Are you asking if you can put diesel in your gas Jeep?" And she said, "Yes." And she's once again upset now with me. This is like 2 o'clock in the morning. Of course, like, you may not put diesel in your gas vehicle, but it really just sort of set that tone. And it's one of these stories that it was actually the thing for my book. It's really the whole reason why I wrote the book. It was sort of the catalyst for it. But quite frankly, it's one of these stories that I just keep on. I think about it. I laugh every time I think about it.
Wow. I saw a YouTube video where a woman was, a very young woman was trying to put diesel in their very expensive car. I was like, oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
every guy who knows anything about motors is having a heart attack. So, wow, good for you for being there, Dad. That's a
Well, I wasn't. I was on the other line of the phone, but it really was more of, have I not taught you that? Like, we've gone to the guy, like, I know I've gone through this stuff with you, but did I really, sort of one of those things is, and you always think about this as a parent, like, did you teach them everything? Were you actually saying something? Did you think you were saying something and they just weren't listening? So it's one of those things where it's just, it comes all over the place. But yeah, it was very fortunate. But now, you travel all over the country. I see green actually doesn't just represent diesel now. You could go to some of these clean states out Midwest and you've got green handles, you've got orange handles. So it can be confusing.
guys. We're gonna roll to our sponsor, then we'll be right back with more from Rob Finlay. Gentlemen, I sleep on a my pillow. I have my pillows all over my house. I have my pillow travel pillows. I have my pillow Giza sheets, my pillow body pillows. I have my pillow towels, and my wife even wears my pillow slippers. They have a lot of products besides pillows and sheets. I would never recommend a company to you that I don't use, and we are proud to have Mike Lindell and My Pillow as sponsors of the show. You can go to mypillow.com and use code TFM. Super complicated, right? Our parent company, The Fallible Man. If you didn't know that, it's our parent company. Code TFM for up to 80% off your order and free shipping over $75 for our listeners anytime, guys. No matter what specials they're running, you are guaranteed up to 80% off your order and free shipping over $75 for our listeners. Furthermore, MyPillow is always running incredible deals. Like right now, as of the recording of this, they're running Giza sheets, any size, any color, $49.98. Guys, you can't get king sheets for $49.98, but you can for MyPillow for a limited time until they're out. Guys, these are the sheets I sleep on every night, and I absolutely love them. We have them for the beds in our house, and you can get yours any color, any size, $49.98 while supplies last. Use code TFM and get a discount just for being our listeners. Help us stay on the air. Every time you purchase from MyPillow, you help an American company making great products, and you help keep your favorite podcast going. So thank you ahead of time for helping keep the show on the air and the other products we make as well. Guys, this conversation with Rob Finlay is an incredible conversation because it's one we don't all think about as men. And I can't wait to share it with you. Let's get started. Welcome to the Dad Hat Shenanigans Podcast, the unfiltered truth about being a dad. Real dads, real stories, unfiltered, candid conversations on fatherhood. I'm your host, Brent Dallin, and my special guest today is entrepreneur, philanthropist, and best-selling author, Rob Finlay. Rob, welcome to the Dad Hat Shenanigans Podcast.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Rob, I got to ask right off the bat, how many kids?
And so I have four kids. Four kids, 3 girls, 1 boy. Oldest is 28, youngest is 20.
All right. So you're at that stage where they're starting to move out on their own and live their own lives. Oh, that's
absolutely.
How are you feeling?
Yeah. It's good. I've because I have that age, right? So 28 to 20. So I've been doing this for a while now, right? So it's always surprising how long I've been a dad. And it's funny actually. My son is actually older than I was when I had him, so that puts things into perspective. But as they start to go out, it's interesting. It really becomes an interesting dynamic for our kids to become adults. I think that transition from being sort of a dependent to an independent can be very challenging for a lot of kids, and especially when you think about what most young adults go through or young kids go through. It's almost like, have you been to the airport and you see those motorized walkways, right, where you step on them and they basically just take you. You don't even. It's almost like an escalator, but it goes flat. And my kids and I, we used to call them magic carpet rides. And I really feel like life for our young kids is sort of like that magic carpet ride. They get on and they do their stuff, first grade, second grade, third grade, so on and so forth. And then all of a sudden that magic carpet ride stops. Either they've graduated from high school and are going to go out on their own, or they've graduated from college and they're going to go out on their own. And it really creates a real dynamic and a real challenge for many young adults.
Rob, before we deep dive too far, tell us a little bit about who you are, right? I mean, I gave a little intro, yay, but that doesn't actually capture. So who is the man? Who is Rob Finlay that we're talking to?
So I'm a father of 4. I'm a businessman, as you said. I've built and sold businesses most of my life. I love starting businesses. I love giving back to the community. I love helping people sort of grow and develop. On the other side, I'm also a farmer. I love being out in the woods. I love soil regeneration, and I do enjoy writing my books and doing things like that. So I try to balance life with a combination of family, business, philanthropy, and also some passion.
I like it. You're a farmer. What do you grow?
So mostly crops, alfalfa. I really tell people we're soil farmers because we're really working hard to go back and really try to reset our soil. That's really the big mission of us, is really trying to regenerate our soil and really create the microorganisms, the fungi that will help it grow. I think a lot of times our crops in the U.S. are they we add chemicals to them, they grow, we cut them out, and we just add more chemicals in to let them grow. And I really want to take the soil first approach.
Okay. I ask because I live in the middle of agriculture. Uh,
Yeah.
we grow everything. Like one of the biggest turf farms in the US is out here where I'm at, and we grow potatoes. Our county grows more potatoes than Idaho.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, there's a big sign when you pull into the county. They're very proud of that fact. Lot
Yeah.
of corn, some asparagus, and some onions, and then you go up on the hills away from me, and you get a lot of hay and some wheat. So I, I I've lived here for 18 years. I still can't grow anything. So hats off to you that you can actually grow anything. I've always been in awe of people who can actually do that.
Yeah, it's a challenge. You know, it's really a passion. My wife is really the green thumb in our family. And I'm sort of more of the manual labor of it. I'm the guy with the wheelbarrow, and I'm the one who's with the hoe and doing stuff like that. But it really is. It's enjoyable. I think it's really nice to work in a garden. And I would have never thought I would have and people who know me. It's like, I've raced cars, I've done all sorts of things, but people have never realized like I actually really enjoy going into a garden. There's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing about going out and getting your hands dirty, but growing and providing for yourself. It really is something magical about it. So having that ability to create food for yourself is a lot of fun.
Yeah, my mom experimented with like planters and stuff on my back porch because she lives with us, and I've got
Mhm.
kids. They're 10 and 13 now, but she has a bunch of planters because she can grow stuff. I kill everything, but she grows things fine. So she spent a couple summers with my daughters planting stuff and letting them watch things actually grow and go through it and seeing how this actually works. And they were just in awe. And I was like, that's cool. Now, if you can pass that whole green thumb to them, because it's not coming from me.
Right, right, right. Yeah, look, it's great that the kids get to see that, right? I mean, they get to see where their food comes from and how you have to care for it in order to harvest it. So it's good stuff. That's really good stuff.
So, Rob, I have to ask the hat. What is your dad hat story? Why this hat?
So this hat is, I think I mentioned to you, I do a lot of traveling. So it wasn't like I was in one location for this hat. And so when you said, hey, you have to come out with a hat, I was like, okay, well, I got to scramble. So this hat right here represents, well, one, it was one that I had, but more importantly, this hat is actually the hat says pig and nut. And the reason why this hat has some meaning to me is one, it's actually one of my companies. We provide really high quality culinary and beverage smoke wood. So, you've seen some of these craft cocktails where people have the bourbon and they smoke it. We produce that wood for restaurants and bars, but also for food. It's not mass produced. It's sustainably harvested, very specific species specific wood. But the reason why I like this hat so much is, it actually reminds me of the woods. It reminds me of being in the forest, and it just reminds me of nature and where I like to be. And I think being able to walk into woods and nature is actually something that's really nice, and it really puts me at peace. I have a couple of big German shepherds that are with me all the time, and they love to run in the woods. So it brings back. It's always a happy thing for me. And then finally, it reminds me of my dad and my grandfather because it's the entrepreneurial spirit that they have and they taught in me. And my grandfather was a serial entrepreneur. My dad was a serial entrepreneur and still is a serial entrepreneur, though he's mostly focused on real estate now. But it's just one of those things. And so to me, it just brings back a lot of these memories.
That's awesome. And that's such a the fact that you're a third generation serial entrepreneur, that's so cool. Because the perfect example, right? Your kids see what you do more so than they ever hear what you tell them. They see what you do and the choices you make, and it's very cool that that has been a generational thing now.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think it's good and bad, right? I think there's anybody who's an entrepreneur will sort of tell you there's good and bad, right? You have to have a special mindset in order to be an entrepreneur, and some would call it a sickness, right? You can't, if you because it's just one of those things. But I think my kids, they were fortunate, but at the same point, I started my first business right very early on in my kids' lives, and so they've never seen me other than being an entrepreneur and having my own business. And so when they went to go look for jobs, and it's a different approach for them, right? I I haven't been in an interview. I've given interviews, but I haven't been in an interview, right? So it's one of those things where I'm trying to teach my kids from my perspective of how I would look at people. So it's very interesting.
I've done a lot of hiring over the years of my corporate life, and so I at least look forward to that point eventually where my kids is like that is because I've known I spent a lot of years working with teenagers, and I know like as they become adults, that's one of those questions they face is like, oh my gosh, interviews and how do I? So, I'm grateful for that time getting to hire people because like I'll be able to kids and be like, okay, this is what we're really looking at, right? Uh,
Right. Well, I think one of the things that's really important too, and I think for all of your listeners, especially with younger children, one of the most important things and one of the biggest gaps that I've seen is um, our young adults' inability to communicate and to communicate externally, and I mean without cell phone, without email, but and actually networking. And I think these are a skill that is imperative for them to get jobs. I think, so I wrote this book called Hey Dad, and it was all the things that you should have learned about, but you didn't, about being an adult. And one of the biggest parts of the book was actually going through and talking to professional recruiters and hiring managers. And they said to me, they're like, look, kids think they can just go on LinkedIn or Indeed and fill out a resume and they're going to get the job. And that doesn't happen. You have to know somebody. You have to be proactive. You have to be able to go out and look at companies through LinkedIn and find out people that you might want to know and reach out blind and say, "Hey, can I talk to you for 5 minutes about your company?" These are skills and comforts that a lot of young adults don't have. And that's really going to impact them as they try to get jobs and try to get promoted in life.
on that's a great start into today. We wanted to talk about parenting after 18, right? That
Yeah.
that was what we agree we wanted to dive into, and you are in a spectacular spot to help my audience because my kids are 10 and 13, right? I've worked with a lot of teenagers over 20 years, but I don't have that skill set yet. I had to be in those shoes. So I'm really excited about our conversation because we've got a lot of parents, right? It's graduation time where I'm at. All our high schools about to do their graduations. They did the baccalaureate last night, and there are a lot of parents every year that face this new challenge of okay, my kids out of high school. How do I continue that relationship forward? How do I support them? And so I'm really excited about your input on this today. So let's start. How do we start setting that foundation with our kids to continue that through that I'm relying on you and now I'm transitioning into adult myself. How do we even start that foundation?
Well, I think it's important. I think it comes back to where were you before this event, right? So were you a hovering parent? Were you a helicopter parent? Were you, constantly picking out, or were you more sort of offhand, right? And so I think that starts with that. But I think one of the most important things for parents to go through, this is a very, very difficult time for both parents and for the young adult. I think I mentioned as a young adult, it's a very confusing time, right? You've got a lot of things going on, not to mention what social media is telling you where you should be and what you're doing. At the same point, your parents, and as being a parent, you're in a situation where you're almost, what's your purpose now, right? Your child is gone off. You've done all of this. You've basically provided them for the last 18 or however many years. And now what's your purpose? So I think the time is very interesting. What I try to tell to most parents, and it depends on the audience when I speak, but if for dads, I like to equate it to one of my favorite pastimes, which is football. And I go to reference coaching. If you look at the way that high school coaches coach football versus the way that professional coaches coach football, you'll see there's a difference. And I like to put that sort of analogy to this transition of parenting. So when your kids are young, sure, hey, you need to block. This is how you block. This is the hole. This is exactly how you do it, right? This is how you step. This is how you form. Everything is very specific, and you're constantly iterating and adjusting and correcting that position, that behavior, right? Whereas a professional coach, you're going to hire a, if you just recruited or just drafted a professional lineman or football player in the NFL, they pretty much know what their job is, right? So you're teaching them very different things. You're much more of a mentor, more of a guidance than anything else. And so that's really where I think parents need to sort of set that position. You're no longer that high school coach that has to make sure they're in every position. You have to make sure that they're generally going in the right direction and be there when they come back to you with questions. And that's more important. You need to make sure that you're open and you're available to answer those questions.
Have you seen there's a trend that I'm starting to see? I'm actually very excited about it on social media where younger parents are starting to go, you know what? We need to let our kids go in the store and pay for things. We need to empower them to go order at a fast food restaurant and pay and come out with the food or go into
Yep.
the and I saw it and I thought about it because my dad loved to drive around when I was a kid. Like he wanted to explore. He wanted to see everything there was. And he sent me into the gas station all the time to get us drinks or to pay for the gas or right. All from the time I was like, 8, 9, 10, no problem. Right.
Yep.
And we've gone through this phase of helicopter parenting where, you're protecting your kid from everything. And I've had to look at my own life as like, have I been overprotective in the name of being protective? Right.
Yep.
And so I'm excited to see this trend because that's really, we need to get back to that more with our kids and go, no, you're capable. Go do this. Why are you?
Right. And it's hard because it's hard on parents, right? Because I think, first of all, I do love that trend, right? I was actually at a restaurant the other night and I saw a child that had to probably been maybe 11 or 12, and he wasn't ordering. His mom was asking him what he wanted to eat, and he would sit there and tell her what he wanted to eat. And waitress comes and he wouldn't talk. I think to me that's you're doing a disservice to a child. Um, but I think there's a combination of things, right? I think it is important that as parents, you are pushing your kids to do these things. Get them out of these boundaries, get them out of their comfort zone, let them fail. That's actually failure is a really good thing. They should embrace it and challenge it and love it. But parents want to do what's right for their kids. And I'm just as guilty, right? I'm sitting here, I'm like, people are like, oh, Rob, you're full of it because you know that your daughters never once had to do anything with their cars, right? You know that all they had to do is, Dad, something's going on with my car. Daddy, there's a light. Dad, there's something. Or dad would be on his own and I would look at the car and make sure the tires were inflated and made sure everything was done. So I think we have to, as parents, first of all, we don't put too much on your parent, right? As a parent, it's hard enough, right? I mean, there's being a parent is hard enough. Set the bar right. Most important thing you can do is raise a decent human. That's it. That's it. If if you get a superstar athlete, that's great. If you get an actor, great, whatever. But just try to set the level and have a decent human being. All the rest of it is what can you do to help those people become decent human beings? And that includes empathy and communication and connection with people. Social isolation is a huge issue in our in our environment now. And so letting your kids go out and be comfortable talking is a huge important thing that they need to do early on.
It's amazing. We are the most connected, and that's air quotes for all of you listening. We're the most connected point in human history. and we are the most disconnected I think we have been easily in my lifetime. And I want to, I'll make the broad assumption of, I want to say, honestly, we're the most disconnected we've been in human history. The amount of
Yeah.
people who have a relationship with their phone and nothing else is terrifying.
Oh, yeah. And when you think about where technology is going through AI, which
Mm.
AI is a wonderful thing in one regard, on the other regard, it's changing the way we think and the way we communicate and the way we interact. And would you? It's probably a lot easier to go and have a relationship with somebody who's always nice to you and happy with you as opposed to going out into real life. And so there's going to be some real challenges. And you're right. And I think going back to that social media stuff, I think one of the things that what we've noticed with young adults is that the expectations that they have are so unrealistic. And so as a parent, one of the things that's really important, and this comes back to that parenting, what do you do when your kids, go out on their own? Well, I think it's really important to look and say, okay, what's real and what's fake, right? Because if I go on Instagram, I'm feeling like a failure, right? I've got kids who are 22, they're making you don't even know what their numbers are, right? The kid's flying around in a G650 and he's got $1 billion and he's on social media. It's like BS, right? So it's important, but your kids can't distinguish that, right? And so a lot of times they're getting out and their first job might be a decent job. It might be a good job for them, but they're feeling pressure because, oh, well, I heard my friend Sally has a job that's paying twice as much. And so as a parent, we really have to be good with our kids saying, listen, this is your life is a journey. Start the path, get on the path. And that's the most important thing is you got to start your path. Otherwise, you're just gonna, you're gonna get left behind.
Rob, let me ask you, what's the best part about being a dad?
Watching your kids grow up, watching them be sad, watching them be happy, watching them have to make the decisions and have the love of things that I have. And I think that's really what's so powerful. Watching your kids grow up is amazing, right? It's being a dad is a wonderful thing and challenging, right? It's it all depends. It comes in stages, right? When my daughters were teenagers, I might not have said being a dad is a wonderful thing, but it is a wonderful thing. And it's just watching them grow, watching them become the humans that they are.
So, gentlemen, if your relationships are not where you want them to be, I want you to know I got you. Relationships take a lot of work and can fall on the back burner pretty easily as your empire building in your life. Men often suffer from damage to their relationships while they're trying to provide because we're always trying to find a way to provide for our family. And unfortunately, a lot of that ladder climbing often pushes the people who matter most to the side. While we think we're taking care of our families, it actually frequently leads to us neglecting those really core relationships. If you're struggling with the connections in your life that actually matter, that make life worthwhile, reach out, go to purposedrivenmen.com and schedule a free discovery call. We teach men how to connect, the skills it takes to really connect deeply and have those quality relationships that matter with the people who matter most to you. And guys, these are the people who make life worthwhile. So if you're struggling with that right now, A, you're not alone, and B, there is a solution and we'd love to help you out. Schedule your free discovery call now over at purposedrivenmen.com. And let's get back to the show. You wrote this book and it really was spurred from this early conversation with your daughter about gas. And you started questioning, how do you make that transition, right? How do I support my kids? And you've started us on a foundation, but as they make that transition, how do we start to show up that differently in their life and start to, as your metaphor went, move from high school coaching where we're actually, this is what you do and this is how you do it, to, all right, the game. Let's work on the other details.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think throughout their life, I think that's you have to stand by. You have to be present for them. But one of the things too is, in fairness, you have to have your own stuff together, right? If your kids are going to come to you, you have to have your own stuff together. And so things like, and this is in particular, and probably not a popular topic, but I was actually on a podcast for middle aged women in transition, right, who are going through life change. I'm like, well, I'm the why in the world would you want me as a, 55-year-old man to be on a, to be on a middle age women in crisis? And the woman, this was out of Australia too, and she said actually it's because it's that transition that very similar that you wrote about in your book, which is the transition for young adults going, they're excited to go out into this world, but all of a sudden they're out in this world and there's a lot of stuff going on coming at them. And so I think as a parent, we first need to be in a good situation to guide them and coach them. Second is we need to remember that we're not telling them what to do, that we're not preaching to them, we're not nagging them. It's the delivery. The world will teach our children. My mom's favorite quote, right? I can tell my kids till I'm blue in the face. Put gas in your car, put gas in your car, put gas in your car, right? And hopefully they do. And for the most part, they do. But sometimes if they don't and they run out of gas, well, the world will teach them, right? And so I think it's important for us as adults, as we go through this transition as well, to understand who we are, because we are going through this transition as well, right? As we talked about, these parents are, it's a big deal. You've just, your child who you've taken care of is now independent. And so, what are you going to do? What's your purpose in life now? And once you have your purpose, then it's easier for you to help guide your kids.
I think that's an interesting point. The idea of continuing having something past, right, when your kids start to become adults and move out on their own or leave the household for college or whatever, it's important that they see that you still have a life, you still have a purpose, you still have a direction, and you're living that and thriving in that. As we mentioned earlier, like kids see what you do to a fault over what you
Yes,
9 times out of 10. And
absolutely.
that's something that is a rough. You're right. That is a rough to swallow as a dad, right? Because I still have a few years before my kids start leaving the house, but like my brother's daughters are all grown now. The youngest one
Mhm.
is got married last summer and moved off to take her first job with her husband, and and she was the baby, and I'm looking at their life, right? And he's doing his best. They're doing their best to live, but I look forward at the same time. I'm really excited. Everybody told me it's like, oh, just wait till your kids are teenagers. I spent 20 years working with teenagers. I'm really excited about my kids becoming teenagers. It's my favorite age,
Yeah.
but I'm looking ahead, going when they go off, what does life look like, right? I
Mhm.
way down the pipe anyway, so it's like
It comes quickly. It
other
comes quickly.
right? It does. It's just the other day I was bringing him home from the hospital. I swear. So
Oh
that
yeah, I feel the same. I feel the same way. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
no, that's fine. That's just a really hard pill to swallow because I don't think a lot of us parents think about what life looks like beyond our children. I've
Yeah.
always encouraged young couples to take 3 years or more before they start having kids, just so they have time to build that foundation of who we are as a couple in their marriage before it becomes all about kids for the next 18 years. Uh,
Yep.
give them a better shot because that's also where the top age line is for divorce age is when kids leave. And it's because they don't know who we are now. That identity of who we are doesn't exist because we were the kids.
Right. Oh yeah. No, I think that's a very. I mean, that's a valid point, and actually, I'm proof to that statement. So, it is a. It's definitely one of those things. You have to. Being a parent is wonderful and hard, and I think to that point, one of the things that I'm really keyed up on is making sure that the time with your kids is it's not about just time, it's about being present, right? And I think I see that a lot. Like, I I I told you I do a lot of traveling. I go to these restaurants, and I just, it bothers me when I see every one of the family members on their phone. They're at dinner and they're all on their phone. And I'm just like, I wish, and I'm sitting there either by myself because I'm going from hotel to hotel or town to town. And I'm like, I want to go over there and be like, you know what? Can I tell you one of these days, your kids aren't going to be around the table, right? You're not going to see them. You're going to see them once every few months if you're lucky, right? And then as they get older, it's less and less. Take this time. There's nothing on your phone that's more important than this time with your kids. And I know sometimes it's nice, sometimes you need a break, and sometimes you need that mental break. But yeah, just it's really important. Be present with your kids because this is right now. I get to see mine are all living elsewhere. So it's a big deal to go see them. It's not like they're upstairs or downstairs or at a friend's house. It takes purpose now and takes effort to go see them. Changing of schedule. So enjoy this time.
We talked about you talking about being present. How else do you cultivate that relationship as they're approaching that transition, as they're growing up to where they're calling, going, "Hey, Dad, how do I?" Or, "Hey, Dad, this is going on. Can you?" How do you cultivate that? Because I think as parents, I think I want that when my kids at that age, I want that to be the first call. Oh, Dad would have an idea on how to help with this.
Yeah, to a point, right? And that comes back to that helicopter, right? Yes, you do up to a point, but you want your kids to be able to start being forward thinking, right? There's an age, and you're still earlier on, but and when you start to get to an age, right, if my 28-year-old, I want him to call me and ask me about things like, hey, investment allocation or this or that, or I'm thinking about starting a business. I'm not expecting my kid to, my 28-year-old to call and say, hey, you know, why do I need a bank account? I use Venmo, right? It's like these. So yeah, I think you have to put it into perspective of where you want your kids to do these things. Look, as I mentioned, when I was writing this book, I went out and I interviewed 30 experts, everything from clinical psychiatrists to a NASCAR, Daytona 500 winning NASCAR driver and his crew chief, to Navy SEALs, to a professional housekeeper. Excuse me, all to get information so that I could give good advice. And they were giving good advice because, quite frankly, even I don't know it all, right? I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly learning as an adult. So I think it's important that you have to understand that your kids are coming to you with information. And by the way, they're going to outpace you in certain things, right? When I talk to cryptocurrency, I'm talking to my son about cryptocurrency. If I'm talking about things on, other things, it's what's this? What does this mean? What's this? So it's coming to this commonality of the information that I can provide with the information that they can provide, and that's how we communicate and engage with each other.
I like that. The mutual respect of letting your kids outpace you in some things and letting them formulate their own ideas and opinions and encouraging that. Uh, as a coach, a men's coach, that's you know, I'm much more of let's help you find the answer, right? Even working with teenagers for years, I've always been a let's help you find the answer. I don't want to give you the answer. I don't want you regurgitating things. Um,
Yep,
having that approach with your kids, it's like, well, what do you think? How
yep.
would you do this if you couldn't ask me? Let's talk about that.
Right. And that was really the premise of the book too, is that this was about foundational knowledge. This isn't about how to tie a tie. It's more about why you should wear a tie in what situations and things like etiquette and manner, not actual very specifics, right? It's not knowing to that, how to use an Allen wrench or a wrench. It's more of, hey, you should really know where your water shutoff is in your apartment because most likely you're going to have a water leak and you need to know how to turn it off. Or you're a guy out on the first time and your buddies come over and clog the toilet, right? These are things that you need to know how to turn water off. So just basic, but it's all foundational knowledge. How to get out of an emergency, what's in a bad situation, what to do in how to get an apartment, how to get a job. Those things are important, but those are foundational.
I like it. Rob, I got to ask, it wouldn't be a dad show without dad jokes. Do you have a dad joke for us?
Yeah. So I wasn't sure if I had to do like it was a joke that I thought dads would say. So it wasn't against dads, but it's like, so what do you call a person who refuses to fart in public?
What?
A private tutor.
I'll take it. That's fair play entirely. I like it.
Okay, perfect.
Hey,
Yeah.
my daughter helped me when I started doing the show. She's like, "You're not very funny, Dad." So she got me a book of dad jokes because she knew I would need help.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, I actually had to go. I'm like, okay, well, let's make it current. And not knowing truly the whole audience, it's like, okay, well, let's make sure, we keep it PG and fun. So yeah.
Well, a lot of dad humor is situational, right? It's a lot of puns. It's a lot of in the moment. It's like, oh, that's just right there. I can throw this out. I love getting
Yep.
come with it at every age. Like it doesn't matter when they were little. Now they're older, and I still like I'll make jokes around teenagers, and they just get that like, oh my god, yes, that's what I wanted right there.
Right. Yeah, good, good.
Rob, what would you suggest to the dads out there as far as starting to smooth out that relationship to where your kids are we're not taught to teach people to think. I don't even know if I can say that eloquently. We are not taught in our education how to help others think for themselves. So how do we start helping our kids to make those decisions? Maybe we've been helicoptering a little much, or and a dad is listening to this going is like, "Oh, I may hover a little much, or I may do everything for my kids." How do we
Yep.
start getting them in that direction where they're starting to problem solve on their own without us?
I think it's exposure. I really do think the more exposure you can have with your kids to things like just, hey, come on down. Hey, let's go to Jiffy Lube, right? It's like, I don't know. I did my oil a long time ago, right? And my dad did his oil, my grandfather did his oil, but I'm not. I'm going to go to Jiffy Lube or whatever and, AAA service and get that done. And so, but having your kids come down and with you so they sort of understand the process of why you're doing it, I think it's also really important that as adults, we actually include our young adults in adult situations, adult things. Now, I'm not saying that your kid should be with you 24/7, right? We've got those friends that, their kid is with them all the time, everywhere they go. And that's like, that's not what I'm promoting. What I'm advocating though for is that your kids will learn the more they have of a society or a neighborhood or a family, the better influences that they get in their life. And so, when they have good friends who are adult friends and they're comfortable talking with them, they're going to have good conversations. They're going to be challenged by that adult. That adult is also going to be there to say, "Hey, don't be an idiot," right? So it's important that you have this group around you, but having your kids, making sure that they're not stuck on their phone in their room playing video games, get them out of that and get them into the world and get them into the exposure of what you're doing and what you're involved with. I have my kids come to work with me every so often. I have them come to business dinners with me or business lunches with me. And I think it's important. They still don't know what I do for a living, but I think it's important that they do see that there is engagement and there's something about it. And I really think it's good for all parents to do that. And quite frankly, dads, you're gonna hover, you're gonna take care of your kids, and especially I'm guilty of this. I probably over overdo my daughters and not necessarily my son, right? It was, so that's just me. But I think it's natural and it's okay. But just get them to be independent and stand on their own as well.
Rob, if a dad listening wants to go deeper on this, where's the best place to connect with you and follow up?
So the best place is my website. It's Rob Finlay, FINLAY.com. And just feel free to go on there. You can follow me on Instagram. Yeah, I try to be cool and put fun stuff on there that I do other than just book stuff. But yeah, go take a look at that and feel free to reach out. This book was a passion project for me. This is not my day job. As you know, writing books and doing things outside like your podcast and stuff. This is a lot of work. and there's a lot of effort. And I do this for passion, and it was a passion of love for my kids.
Absolutely. That's that's a as someone who's working on a book currently, um, that's a heck of a passion for your kids, brother. Right there, right there.
Yeah.
Anybody who's listening who has never tried to write a book, wow, just wow. The undertaking. I talk to a lot of authors, and you have to love something a lot to write a book on it. It's a lot of work.
A lot of work, a lot of commitment, and you get burned out, especially when it's not your it's not your day job. Like, yeah, if I was Stephen King and yeah, you're getting paid a lot of money and you've got somebody who's sort of on you, that's one thing. It's like doing your homework without having to turn it in, right? It's like, I'll just do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. So, but keep at it. You'll get it.
Rob, if our audience heard nothing else you said today, what is the most important thing you want the dads listening to hear?
Relax. Your kids will be fine. Make sure they're good adults, make sure they're good kids. Just make sure that, and then you've done everything. That's it. That's all you have to think about.
Guys, thanks for joining us today on the Dad Hat Shenanigans podcast, a community of dads navigating life challenges together. Until next time, laugh, learn, and live the dad life.